There is no normal life that is free of pain. It's the very wrestling with our problems that can be the catalyst for the most growth. I was once an alcoholic, drug-addicted mess, basically on the verge of suicide. And I'm glad, as without that pain and suffering, I never would have done what I've done over the past 4 years. I'd still be working in a job I despised, barely existed in complete misery. Today, I'm bringing you my most raw and personal video yet. You see, as men, society often expects us to bury our feelings, toughen up and pretend everything is okay. It's disheartening to realize that in Men's Mental Health Month, which was last month, barely anyone even knew it was happening, myself included. And I've personally struggled with mental health problems nearly all of my life. Let's face it, that is messed up. There are countless invisible men out there suffering in silence. And through this video, I hope to shed light onto their experiences. As a man sharing my own story, one I've rarely divulged to anyone, my aim is to ignite a fire in you and inspire you to confront your own mental health problems head on. For a long time, anxiety held me in its tight grip, leaving me feeling like a broken puzzle piece, desperately searching for missing pieces. But here I am today, standing strong with newfound strength and purpose, finally ready to share my story. Believe me, you don't have to resign to a life of constant mental health issues. I'm living proof that you can overcome them. Trust me, I was an absolute wreck. It will shock you how bad I was in comparison to now. First, let's address some staggering statistics. 3 times as many men die by suicide than women, and I've personally witnessed this statistic come to life. Men are 2/3 less likely to access psychological therapies than women, and men are far more prone to alcohol and drug dependence in comparison to women, which you'll soon learn about in my own story. Chances are you know someone and have experienced this firsthand. I'm not claiming that life is harder for men, but I can say for certainty that it isn't easier, despite what the media may portray as male privilege. What a load of shite. If I were to recount every single anxiety story that's affected my life, this video would be longer than the Lord of the Rings extended version. From the age of 17 until about 2 years ago, where I fully gained control of it, anxiety heavily impacted my life every single day. I'd go further and to say every hour of every day, every minute of every day. I had to endure a hellish journey before I found my way out. The purpose of this video is to help you gain control over your own problems. Anxiety, depression, OCD, all of the things that many of you have. And if you don't suffer from these, you'll gain an insight into the mind of someone who has been through it, which will help you understand all types of different people within your life. Also, if you actually think you've got good mental health, then yeah, you probably do, but it can always be better. And the methods I'm going to lay out in this video will help. I'm going to share 3 specific anxiety-riddled stories with you that highlight how I went from anxiety controlling my life to me controlling my anxiety. Through these stories, I hope to offer advice and strategies to help you manage any problems you've got going on up here. And more importantly, to remind you that you are not alone. Let's begin with story number 1, obviously, which I like to call D-Day. Or actually, it'd probably be better if I called it A-Day for Anxiety Day, because I vividly remember the exact day that my anxiety surfaced. It was exactly 15 years ago on the 5th of May 2008. Whilst I was watching TV with my girlfriend at the time. The show we were watching was Bam Margera's Viva La Bam. The episode was the scavenger hunt episode. Season 1, episode 8. And I genuinely didn't look that up. It is etched in my memory. You know what? I thought I'd actually be fine talking about it, but I can feel my body sort of reacting to the memory of it because it was so intense and what happened after lasted so long. But anyway, I'm watching TV and I start to get tension in my head, across my forehead. Just a tension headache, it felt like. I thought, this will be gone in an hour or so. It's nothing, it's just a headache. But it persisted for another 48 hours and then a few other symptoms started started to kick in, restlessness and bizarre thought patterns. This is when I genuinely thought I was starting to go insane, like a character from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or something. So obviously at this stage, I sought out medical advice. I started thinking all kinds of things, landing on brain tumor. I was convinced of it, so I went and actually had a brain scan through one of those donut machines. Then all the other symptoms intensified again. I was experiencing OCD, dark thoughts, depersonalization, shakiness, unease. I started having difficulty even conversing with my girlfriend and my friends, but it was the panic attacks. I was basically having a panic attack 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The intensity of my anxiety was literally overwhelming, and if I had known what the next 15 years would have in store for me, I might have considered some more drastic measures. Thankfully, looking back, I was completely unaware, so I'm still here today. And that's the story of how it all began. Now, story number 2. Fast forward 6 months and not much had changed. I continued to experience all-day panic attacks without even realizing it was anxiety. I cannot express in words enough how much I thought I was going insane. Genuinely mental. By this time, I'd become a complete recluse, avoiding all social situations and finding it difficult to even go to the shop. I owe a great debt of gratitude to my girlfriend of the time for supporting me, despite not fully understanding the actual extent of the struggle. Without her, I genuinely believe I wouldn't be here today, just as 2 of my other friends decided to tragically end their lives. This video is dedicated to them, though in their case it is too little too late. I hope that this video can help other men to avoid befalling such tragedy. So during this period of 6 months from when it started until where I was, I had stopped drinking completely because I already didn't do very well with hangovers, and I thought it would just intensify my symptoms. However, one night at my dad's house when he was away for a week, a free house as we call it in England, I gave in to the temptation and had some of the beers that he'd left in the fridge. Surprisingly, at the time, after the first beer I felt a slight improvement. The second beer, even more improvement. The third beer, even more improvement. The fourth beer, for the first time in 6 months, I had no anxiety, which I still didn't even know was anxiety, but I felt completely normal. It was a temporary, yet miraculously huge relief. It felt like the weight of the world had just dropped out of me. Unfortunately, what I thought was going to happen happened. The following morning, the hangover had intensified my symptoms to an unimaginable level. If I thought it was bad before, fuck me. I ended up calling an ambulance and I ended up in hospital. And it was only then, 6 months later, that a doctor finally recognized anxiety as the cause. I had been to the doctor so many times in that past 6 months, and no one ever thought to say, this might be anxiety. It just shows the complete failure of the system when it comes to men. Shut up and toughen up. So obviously I was prescribed anti-anxiety medication, but the night before I'd already found my anti-anxiety medication, hadn't I? Those few beers marked the beginning of an incredibly dark and tumultuous period that lasted for 5 to 6 years. Now, story number 3. Lightning going on. It's like I'm raining down the heavens with my story of angst and anxiety. That weather is how I felt. This story takes place 5 or 6 years after D-Day, that I lovingly refer to as A-Day for Anxiety Day, if you haven't guessed. At this point, I was approximately 24 years old. It's hard to know and keep track of dates and times when you've been drunk for 5 or 6 years. I imagine it doesn't surprise you to hear that I had relied on alcohol as a coping mechanism to navigate through life since that first relieving sip I had at my dad's house. Every day, alcohol consumed my existence. It became my crutch, numbing my anxiety while allowing me to maintain a facade of normality. And bear in mind, I held down jobs during these times. I became incredibly good at finding the perfect balance to alleviate anxiety without raising any suspicion. I knew the exact number of beers you could have, the exact time period between each one that you needed to have so that you wouldn't look drunk, but you were. I even knew the exact number of chewing gums and how long you'd have to chew them for to get rid of the smell of beer on your breath. Now, as a side note, although I was battling alcoholism, I still managed to enjoy a good chunk of my teens and 20s. And that's actually weird weirdly because of alcohol. I don't know what I would have done without it at the time. It wasn't until an incredibly painful breakup that I made the decision to reclaim my life, to put the pieces back together, fix the underlying issues, to not just be this mess of a man walking around drunk in the day, 24 and 25 years old, an embarrassment to my family. This breakup hit me hard and I had two choices. I could downgrade, carry on drinking, or I could upgrade and get to the point that I'm at now. So how did I confront the anxiety that I had been masking with alcohol? Because prior to actually quitting drinking, I'd explored many methods of controlling my fear and anxiety. I tried meditation, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT as you may know it as, talking therapy. I even experimented with eating clean and exercise, but those attempts never lasted long due to alcohol's hold on me. I'd also tried every single anxiety medication under the sun, including the illegal ones. But still, when the day came for me to quit drinking and take back control of my life, I was actually somewhat prepared. I had gained wisdom and experience despite being drunk over the years, equipping me with better tools to deal with my anxiety. But I had to go through absolute hell to get sober. My body was screaming for alcohol. I spent a straight month in bed, shaking, crying, calling my mum just in bits, asking her to save me, staring at my laptop, trying to find anything to take my mind off it, as my body detoxed from years of alcohol abuse. I do not recommend it. So after getting through those initial stages, my body was detoxed, and meditation in particular became an integral part of my life. There were many other tools that helped me, such as clean living and fitness, but meditation was the one that truly got me making slow and steady progress. About 2 years ago, something incredibly significant happened. A shift that I could almost feel occurred within me. It was like a switch had been flipped. I found myself bowling with friends, an activity that would normally induce massive amounts of anxiety. It was on one of them small bowling lanes, you know, the ones that you find in the cinema that aren't full length. And on that day, 2 years clean from alcohol, I engaged in conversation effortlessly. I enjoyed myself with no anxiety. And as a side note, I absolutely dominated everyone at bowling because, as I said, it was one of those shorter lanes, and the fitness I'd been building over the years meant that I was stronger than everyone else. So I would just pick up the heaviest ball and completely annihilate it down the line and explode the pins everywhere. It had nothing to do with accuracy, it was just pure power. I almost actually got a turkey, which is 3 strikes in a row. Back in the day, I would have been too focused on getting the beers in to even pay attention. But this time, sober, I actually enjoyed the activity. And I won, which of course was great. For the first time in a long time without something anxiety-provoking happening. It was an extraordinary feeling, being normal. I didn't even think about my mental health problems. All of those years of meditation, training, eating clean, CBT, visualization, journaling, and every other little thing that I did to fix my problems had paid off. And from that moment, anxiety became basically non-existent in my life. And I firmly believe, with determination, commitment, and following the guidance I'll provide in future videos, you too can experience moments like this and find freedom. Since that day, I'd say anxiety affects me about 5% at the time, which is pretty much a normal amount for a normal human. I think anyway. But I have the tools, knowledge, and training to swiftly shut it down. Many days and even weeks pass by where I don't feel one anxious thought. And that remaining 5% of anxiety will soon fade away. Or maybe it won't. Maybe that's the normal amount you're supposed to experience. And that's fine. Because the point is that I now control it. It doesn't control me. That period of my life is firmly in the past. And I am free. Being challenged in life is inevitable. Being defeated is optional. Thanks for watching. I hope you were inspired to fix your own problems if you have any. If you were, please like or share it with a friend who's suffering and needs to hear this. Peace out, guys.